Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome back to the Daniel YouTube page. This is my live show. I am the Daniel, and let's get right to it. I'll play my intro music, and we shall begin.
Dare to be a Daniel, dare to stand alone, dare to have a purpose firm, dare to make it known. Standing by a purpose true, heeding God's command. Honor them, the faithful few. All hail to Daniel's band. Dare to be a Daniel, dare to stand alone, dare to have a purpose firm, dare to make it known. Many mighty men are lost, daring not to stand, who for God has been a host by joining Daniel's band.
All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. So this episode is going to be dreams or dream. Last episode was language, so we're talking about belief in this series. This is my live show, question and answer. Keep it light, but I want to give you something to ask questions about and to add to the discussion as we grow this channel. So, belief, what do you believe? How do you believe it? Where do you believe it? Why do you believe it? You were born, you didn't believe anything, and now you believe what you believe, and you know what you know. I'm using flat earth as our template. I'm using that as the center. So do you believe the earth is flat? Do you believe the earth is a sphere? Do you believe it is hollow? What do you believe? Do you believe it is the center of existence, geocentric? Do you believe it is rotating around the sun, heliocentric? Do you believe it is aheliocentric? Do you believe the universe is rotating around nothingness and the sun is rotating around the universe and always expanding, and then the earth is chasing the sun, as the cosmology of today teaches? Do you believe that governments pay for all cosmology? Cosmology is the study of the heavens. The language, do you believe those words, or do you say, oh, I'm going to just make up my own words and my own meaning of words? That was the last episode of language. There's different types of language. I use fashion as an example to present to you a meaning of what I'm actually trying to not just say, but what I am trying to convey emotionally. And there is an emotional state that this lives in, and that is the belief. That is where our beliefs live. It lives in not just a physical realm, but a metaphysical realm, and we are going to get into that in this episode called dreams. So you live in a dream state. The emotions and the energy of what we project, what we mirror, what we simulate creates desires, and those desires are either for ourselves or for other people or for our spiritual quest, and that is kind of what steers and guides our journey of this thing called life. There's a beginning and a middle and end, and in that beginning and middle and end there is some sort of energetic harmonic thing going on, and the controllers of this world, the bankers and the star worshippers, they are using the power of the stars to control that and to steer your mind. And that is the basis of this series of belief. And they've created a dream state within a dream state to steer us. Now, I don't know what the dream state of God's dream state is. This is where this gets hard. So I told the story in the first episode where I took my Bible, I threw it across the room. I said, this doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand the creation story. If I understood the creation story, I'd understand the creator. If I understood the creator, I would understand what creation was stolen from him. And I didn't understand it. So then I studied what they teach of the creation. I just studied heliocentrism. I just studied cosmology. I just studied what NASA teaches us. I looked into what Neil deGrasse Tyson was saying. I looked into what Michio Kaku was saying. I looked into what Lawrence Krauss was saying. And I realized that they were lying. It's the opposite. Then I started understanding geocentrism and then flat earth, and then the map of this created order, this stage that we're in, that space is fake. Space is not what they say it is. It is not as far as they say it is. Space is just proximity. Proximity is just distance, and that distance is set to create meaning, and the people that want to give you the meaning are basically just trying to project their emotions back to them. So they're trying to beam something to you, so then you beam it right back to them. And what they're trying to beam back to them is that they're great because they told you what the earth is, what kind of creation it is, what the stage is we are on. So then we can then beam it back to them, and they just flip everything upside down. Once you realize they do that, you just look at what the upside down is. You just basically take the opposite of what they say, and then you can get out of their dream. Now, the dream of this God consciousness of what the Bible is saying, what God desires for us, is to redeem us, is to change us. The created order was different. And when you read the Bible and you understand that it was broken, and it was broken from the beginning, that's the story of the Bible. The original creation, we have no idea. There was floodwaters over this earth. I just recently was in Yellowstone area where first we were in Devil's Tower, and the next day we were in Yellowstone. It's very interesting. So we were driving into Devil's Tower. It's a big mountain that's in the middle of this plain that's kind of above this valley, and there's just this pillar of rock granite stone, and it looks like a tree stump, and it looks like it was cut down, and then it looks like it was petrified by floodwaters. Now they have these signs that say how it was created through water and lava and all this other stuff. As you're driving into there's probably 100 looking tree stump. There's the valley, and then just above the valley, it's not a very big valley, these other tree stump looking things, and there just looks like there's 100 giant tree stumps. And as I was driving, I researched this on YouTube, and I've seen the pictures of it, and I was kind of nervous going in there because I was like, I don't know if I'm actually gonna think that these are actually trees, prehistoric trees that were petrified in floodwaters as I go there. And sure enough, before we got to Devil's Tower, I was like, oh, this makes so much sense. There were trees. And I pulled up my Bible real quick, and I was like, I got to see because I don't remember the exact creation story. So I read Genesis 1 again, and nowhere in Genesis 1 does God say he made mountains. Somewhere in the Bible it says he's the God that moves mountains. And I was like, oh, is that what that means? That he moved mountains through the floodwaters by changing them into granite or stone? Is that where stones come from? I think so. And it's crazy. And then this creation order starts making more sense. We live in a nightmare of David Rockefeller's mind, of the Queen of England's mind, of Lord Rothschild's mind. We live in their nightmare of, they're really just trying to recreate the creation. They want to create deserts everywhere. They want to get rid of all trees. They want us living in some sort of technological world where we have microchips and we're just trading our time, but we're trading it to them. And they're really just psychopaths because it doesn't actually give them it creates death. It just creates this system where it just ends, and then they have to just restart it. And then when we restart it, it usually starts over where people are trading with each other. They're living more of like a country lifestyle. And I think there's always been technology. I think they did it in Babylon, they did it in Persia, they did it in Greece, they did it in Rome, where they had the technological elites, they called them the flying men, had the secret knowledge, had the truth of the creation, knew how to create it, distribute it by just managing the talents of the people. And then they got them into their schools, their mystery schools. That's what the Greeks did. Our system, America, is, I mean, if you study the Greek Empire, we're Greece. What I was told when I was reading the Odyssey and the Iliad and all the Greek mythology in high school was that this was not considered mythology in Greece. It was considered history. And I was like, how can people actually believe that Zeus and these deities were actually real characters? Well, now I can understand, because people think dinosaurs are real, and they think that's a real character. But that's mythology. They made it up. There's no proof that they have dinosaurs. They don't have one complete dinosaur skeleton. They admit they only have like 3% of one. I don't even think they have 3% of one dinosaur. But they say they have about 3% of one dinosaur. And you ask them, why are they all replicas? Or they go, oh, it's because, they're too fragile. No, it's because they don't have any. That's the real answer. And they always admit that in back channels. And then they do that double think where they have other people lie for them. And they do tell the truth because they want to get you to believe it any which way. And then they'll let you on their team and be like, no, what we're doing is we're projecting light into this world and getting it beamed back and make your light shine, make your light shine, make your light shine. Well, all their light is their ego, their spirituality, their desire to have people think they're great and not the creator God is great. And this is why the creation has fallen. This is why man has fallen, the depravity of man. I have a poem called there are no humans in heaven. I wrote a whole series of poems based off of that. You can check that out on French Lyric Poetry. But let's talk about dreams. Dreams are the desire. So we use that word in English. I dream like a wish. to accomplish something. Then there are dreams, a dream state. When people sleep at night, sometimes you remember your dreams and sometimes you don't. Where are you? Do they feel real? Oh, yeah, they feel real. People always say, "Oh, I remember my dreams." Well, tell me your dream. And they're like, "Okay, well, it was like this, it was like that. It was, but it wasn't." You have to say it's like this. But the feeling, the emotional state you were in, it felt realer than this because it was an electrical chemical reaction that you were having. It was some sort of experience that did become real. And for some people, it's realer than real. There are drugs that can take you to dream states. There's a gland, the pineal gland. It's produces something called dimethyltryptophan, DMT, and you can also synthetically, what's his name? I always forget his name, but not Jeremiah Stitchens, but the other. I'll think of his name for in a second. He worked for the government. He developed synthetic versions of it. Now Rogan's big into this. Other people have talked about DMT and the dream states, and they go to a place called the fifth dimension. Now I'm going to go over the dimensions with you real quick, but let me just explain. So there are different dream states, and they do come from. Some of them come from your lower desires of trying to fulfill this inner godhood, this ego. So they call that the third eye. The eye of Horus. The eye of Sauron that's on our dollar bill. It says from the many one. What are they trying to accomplish with the many one? They're trying to accomplish the inner desire of the ego. The Eastern religions follow this. Understanding this, if you read the Bible, it's all about not doing that. It's all about recycling that. The temple of God in the Jewish system was basically just a place where people brought their first fruits, and then the religious people were the ones that were supposed to pass it out. They were supposed to take some for themselves and then just pass it out free. And it was not supposed to be for profit. Money exchanging and banking, that's when Jesus went in the temple and made the whip. That's what he was doing. He was going into a temple where they're supposed to be given away for free. And they weren't. And they were creating value for it and saying, oh, okay, because you did this sin, you don't get the rice. Because you did this sin, you don't get the land. No, you're supposed to bring your first fruits in and give them up. That's the Jewish system. And that's the Christian system. And that's the system God came to abolish on this earth to make that to make the idol worship. An idol is just a fake god. It's something replacing something in place of a god, and a god is a creator. There is only one creator god, and everything else is a smaller god, a deity, and God calls them fake gods, false gods. But he does have to recognize that other people are doing that, so he calls them fake gods or idolatry or idols, idol worship. And our whole society is built off of that. We worship the NFL, we worship the NBA, we worship the movie stars, we worship the music stars because we want to become them, we want to become the idol. They're the idol, and then if we worship them, well, no, really, if you just do the work, you get to become them. Now, we are not under the law, and there is forgiveness, and most people go, yeah, I understand that, but as long as you recycle it, as long as after you're done watching footballs, after you're done at the concert, you go live your life and don't just do that all the time. It's not worshiping it. It's just dipping your toe in it. And I am fine with. I mean, I listen to music. I am not religious. I'm not Amish. I don't live in a certain way where I don't. But you do have to recognize that. You do have to recognize. Okay, am I worshiping this? I got someone else's name on my back wearing their jersey, and then that company doesn't even have to pay taxes. They're categorized like a church, the NFL. And they were started by Satanists from Skull and Bones. This is weird. And Bertrand Russell said in one of his books said, we're gonna create stadiums and have them worship us and create a whole world. And they dreamed of this system by using other systems. Football comes from soccer and rugby, and then they call it football. They try to confuse your brain. It's not played with defeat. But it is a fun game, and it's a simulated warfare. It's like a game of colonial warfare, and it's fun. And then when they added gambling to it, then you're involved in the team. You have your fantasy. That's the dream, and they get you to live in their dream state. And we're in a new 1,000-year period, and for whatever reason, they believe in this 1,000-year period. They believe in these star symbols, and it is ending for them. And then their solution is to restart it, but restart it by closing off the mind, not letting people know about the deep secrets of the world, put everything on the internet, and then get people to not tell the secrets on the internet anymore and control the internet. So the 3-strike rule, if you get the microchip, you can't buy and sell if you have a bad social credit score. So if you go try to buy milk and you scan your chip, they're going to say, no, you said the wrong political thing, or you said the wrong religious thing, and now we can control the language. And they did it through the Brave New World way. Alexis Huxley, if you go into his speech at Berkeley, it's like a 60-minute speech. But if you go, I think it's like the 9-minute, at the end of the, with 9 minutes left in that speech, he says, we're going to get people to love their servitude. And they did it through this weird psychological. That's the part when you get to the end of it, when you get to flat earth, when you see how people want to be in charge, and they tricked you by saying, if you follow our system, you can be in charge. When it is a trap, it does not work. And there is order to this existence. And it is also metaphysical, but it's also physical. So the physical stuff and the way they do the politics and the social justice and the control of the mind, and with the pictures, it starts with the pictures and then it ends with the words and controlling the words. And if you can't see that, if they say, oh, you can't say this, or you, for whatever reason, then you know they're the bad guys. But what I want to talk about today is this template of the interdimensional dream state that we live in, and it's pretty interesting. So we shall, and then the next version of this is the calendar of when and how they stole kind of the map of where we live. There is a created order. In that created order, it is based off of math, and then we use the symbols of the creation to tell the story of when we are doing things. And we are doing things in this thing called existence, and existence is eternal. No, I can't explain eternity. That's something that I don't try to do, and that's something that no one has ever even come close to. Now, the Big Bang says just something out of nothing. Christianity says God breathed life into existence. In the first chapter of Genesis, it says God was hovering over the deep. There was already the deep, and then there was already the waters. Water is gas, it is liquid, and it is solid. It is something. God was there. God is existence himself. I don't know where that existence comes from. I don't know if it was that or the Big Bang. Now, you take positions on faith with belief. That is something that the scientists won't admit, that even their system is a faith-based belief. Rationality is faith-based. I called myself a rationalist, so meaning I wouldn't believe anything if I couldn't prove it. I'm not going to use Bible. I'm not going to use faith. I'm going to use chemistry. I'm going to use physics. I'm going to use names of things and call them real. But then at the end of that, you have to come to you get to a point where what is the beginning? We don't know. It does come down to faith. But analyze all the data before you do that. Before you close, is it you? Does it come from you in your brain? Because when I was little, I knew nothing, and I studied other people, and I analyzed the data, and now I think I know something, but it's really just my opinion. It is not relative opinion. It is based off of objective truth. There is objective truth. If you say there is an objective truth, I could come over and hit you, and if you go, ow, and I go, no, it's all relative. It didn't hurt you. That's objective truth. And then we can analyze, and we watch the sport of fighting and go, well, that's a subject, and who's the best at fighting? Okay, that's what they built this idolatry off of, and worship the person that's the best, and then sit around and waste our time arguing. And that's fine to do for entertainment, but then we need to grow our own food, and we need to grow our own fuel. Oh no, we need to we can only buy it from the people that put poison in our food and water. Oh, we can only and they go, oh no, it's not going. No, it is going on, and cancer is rising. And we're not allowed to question it now. The Ministry of Truth will come and shut us down. They'll put a microchip in us and force us to buy their food and buy their water. And it's got to be synthetic food. We got to put chemicals in the water, so now we have to buy water. That's ridiculous. Nestle says water isn't a human right. Who owns Nestle? Paul Allen and Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. Like, they own all the companies, and then they want to put weird stuff in. So that's the physical realm, because they want to control the non-physical realm. The non-physical realm is this place where we don't know where it exists, but after we have nothing, we have something. So that's 0, and that's 1. 1 and then 0, that's 10. Every number is based off of 1 and 0. The computer is based off the brain computing ones and zeros, and then they plug in ones and zeros. So 1 is something, 0 is nothing. So 1 is what we're going to call the first dimension. But we don't know what it is. It's just something, and it's our starting place. 2 is the recognition of that starting place, and it's not nothing, but it's something with something else, but we don't know what it is yet. It's just a straight line. So you have 1 dot on the paper, 2 dot on the paper. The paper's existence. 3 is the third dot. Now we have shapes. Now we have height. Now we have width. Now we have depth. Now we can't recognize that. We can't recognize the beginning. We can't recognize the end. We can recognize points of it, only what we can see. We have three vocal points of shape. Now don't get too wrap your head around this. There's a YouTube video called Imagining the 10 Dimensions. If you want to go deeper on this, I'm just giving you the basic 10 dimensions we live in. 4 is time. Now the shape of time, if you try to take a piece of paper and just write 3 shapes on it, any shape, and then take a fourth. It has to be an enclosed shape, and try to connect those dots. You can't. You can take 3 and you can have them connect with each other, but the fourth won't connect to all 3. Unless you draw a circle around all of them, then you can. But then you only have a system of 4, and then everything would live in that realm. Because there are more shapes that you can make, we don't want to cap it at 4. So 4 is time. And time is the symbol of recognizing where we are at along the height, shape, and depth along our timeline. And we use the symbols of the stars in our calendar, the sun and the moon, and the rotation of the stars yearly. So 365 days. It's really not 365 days. It's really 300, and it's literally, well, there's not 24 hours in a day. So it's really 364.333 or something like that. There's really not 24 hours in a day. It's really 23.33333. There is a leap year every 4 years. So the month of February has 28 days, and then sometimes it's 29. So in 2020 was a leap year. We had an extra year. People born in that day only get a birthday for every 4 years. So that's our style of doing the calendar. There are other calendars. The calendar was changed by the Romans from the Greeks. The Greeks started this calendar, and then they changed the names a little bit to make it more about them and not just even star dates. Some of the days are named after emperors, and there's 31 days in some months, there's 29 days in some months, and then there's 30 days in some months, because I think they wanted to hide the calendar of God's creation, to just make the creation their way and not God's way. In the Bible, it talks about the year of Jubilee. It talks about it's a different calendar, and that's the one that I want. That's the one I knew it was something. I just didn't know what it was, and that's the one I've discovered recently. But I just need to say it a little clearer. And it's super interesting. It has impacted my life because I was born on one of these weird star dates, like a leap year. It's not a big deal, but it's a big deal for like the Hollywood people. They think it's crazy. That's why they always pick on me, because they know I was born on one of these star dates, and they search the whole world, and they go to these doctors' offices, see when people were born, and find anybody born on the star dates. And my mom was also born on the same star date, and it's crazy. And there's like a couple people, other people that have been born on the star date, and then they always try to get us together. And we're high energy people, and we're around each other. We drive each other crazy. So it's interesting, but it doesn't really do it. I mean, it's all about creating value, and in this world, and we're not supposed to create value. We're supposed to just hang out and enjoy God's creation, and they think it's about creating this great experience for themselves. So time is the fourth dimension, and that shape can only touch 2 parts, not all 3 of your timeline. So it creates a beginning, a middle, and an end, and during that beginning and the middle and the end, there are symbols to remember that time. So time travel, you wouldn't know that you are doing time travel if you were able to, what we call the time-space continuum, if you're able to bend time, which they do in the movies. I wrote poems about it. You can time travel, but you can't remember if you did it, and you would have to leave it for somebody, your time travel. And all you would be doing in time is trying to create value, because all we do in our time, in our society, is try to create value for ourselves or for other people. If we're doing it for other people, a lot of times it becomes what we call self-righteousness in the Bible. To make a great name for yourself, to be the sacrificial lamb, to be, I taught them how to get saved. But now you have to be, but then what it makes you want to do is get saved your way, so then you don't get to heaven if It's not the way I say it is, following my dogmatic truth, which is what the evangelicals do, which the Christians do, and it's the most frustrating thing in the world. They're just trying to become, and a lot of them are not true Christians, and they won't be in heaven because they'll get to heaven and say it's these people didn't get saved right, and God's like, no, it's saved through Jesus Christ, um, alone, Christ alone, faith alone, through the blood of Jesus Christ alone, and that's it. And bad people will be saved, and they will be forgiven for their past and their present and their future transgressions, 100%. And they will be in the presence of God if they are willing to submit that there is a God, a creator God. That's all you have to do to be in God's presence. And that's what heaven is God's presence. And he's going to open up heaven to earth, and the realms will be connected again. So the fifth dimension is when we don't want that realm, when we want it for ourselves, and it creates this shadow land, it creates the DMT land, it creates the ayahuasca land, the places where you can see these shadows and these deities that are telling you that you can become a god. Terence McKenna, that's his name. He was the one that taught about this world, the Clockwork Elves. I'm not going to get too much into the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension is this weird area, and it usually only lasts for a couple minutes when you go there. That's probably kind of where you're going, where you're asleep. So everyone does go to the fifth dimension. So just because you go to the fifth dimension does not mean you're evil. There are deities and dragons and snakes and lizards, and you can see, I mean, I've seen lizard people in the daytime. Just their body turned into an 8-foot lizard, just like the one from the book of Journey into the Center of the Earth. I've seen them. Billy Corgan's talked about seeing them. We happened to contact me one time, and it was like, was it the same guy? I was like, yeah. I go, who was it? And I said who it was. It was Brian from Fox News. And he's like, yeah, it's Brian from Fox News. It's a lizard. There's a couple other ones. Anyways, not everybody can see it, and you can't see it all the time. That's what's weird about it. But yeah, Brian from Fox News is a lizard. Okay, so there are the fifth dimension, and then the sixth dimension is a prism. It's and if you study the more of the sacred geometry, the shapes of these dimensions, it will make sense. It is hard to explain the shapes, and I might do a series off of that. I have a poem called Imagining the 10 Dimensions. I like to just do it this way and just trying to, everything lives in the third dimension. Let me get through it and then I'll go back to it. But so the sixth dimension is hell. The sixth dimension is this shape where you're in other shapes and then you get stuck in the prism because your desires took you, and it all comes back to you, but you're just eating yourself. So the symbols of all the hieroglyphics of the Egyptians were snakes eating itself. Were womb symbols. The womb eats itself. The man's the spark. The woman's the womb. The woman's the circle. The man. So that's 1 and 0. That's 10, and it's a circle with a line through it. That's existence. And then it needs 2. It needs, if the womb just has 1, if it's a system of 1 from the many 1, then that 1 becomes existence itself. And if there's nothing to recognize that existence, it encaves at itself. If it tries to create mirrors and prisms where it's reflecting it all back to itself, it just beams it back to it, and it kills itself. It tortures itself. God's creation, for God to know he existed, he needed us to beam it back to him, and then he beams it back to us, and then we beam it back to each other, and then collectively we all beam it to him. And it is a system of 3 and 1. It is not a system of 1, and 1 leads to 5 and 6, and then 6 on the other side of 6 is 7, and the shape of 7 is that system, is 3 and 1, but then it goes up to 7 where it's heaven, it's God's home, it's the pearly gates and the glass and the mirrors and the lights and the gold roads, and it is the place of God's home and perfect rest. And then 8 is a time loop. 8 is the connection of all the different realities. So multiverse is really popular right now. What's his name? Zuckerberg just changed his website to Meta, the Metaverse. There's the movie Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Jackie Chan. Great performance by Jackie Chan, by the way. The Metaverse, I used to be really hard on Metaverse. It stands for multiple universes. So if you could time travel and you could go to these multiple where things could happen. Now, in chemistry and in physics, they teach you that certain things only mix with certain things. And you need sunlight, you need water, and you need the seed. You need certain things to grow. And if you can't just wish upon and have hot dog hands, like in the movie Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And it's kind of ridiculous I've come around to multiverse a little bit. I think with the fifth dimensional energy and the dream state, there are multiverses, but they don't live in the third dimension. If they do, they only live in the third dimension for a little bit of time, and then if you don't know what's going on, then it doesn't really exist. You can make it exist, but then that would become your reality. And if it's possible to happen, then it would have already happened. So fate is fixed, but you're not supposed to mess with fate. Fate. If you do mess with fate, you're going to create an alternate fate. And is it going on at the same time? No, it just kind of bled into your dimension through the eighth dimension, through this time loop of taking your fifth dimensional energy and then trying to beam it into the third dimensional energy where we live, because we know we live, because we have the symbols to archive our time and space, and we have seconds, we have minutes, and we have hours, and we have months, and we have years, and we can write it down. We can write it down in our mind. We can just kind of remember. Now, I can't remember everything I did in the past, but I kind of can go back and go, okay, when I was in high school, how old was I in high school? Okay, I was this old. So I'm this old now, based on our star cycle that we're following. Is it a perfect star cycle? No, but it still works as a reference point, so we can put meaning and we can archive what we are doing. And then what we are doing is living in the place called the ninth dimension. The ninth dimension is the power that powers this grid. It is a energy field, basically, that powers the eighth dimension. The eighth dimension loops us around to our desires, whether we want to go to the seventh dimensional place, where it is reciprocal, the three beget one, or do we want to make it all about ourselves, which leads to hell, which leads to death. Death is not the thing about eternity. We're talking about things that are everlasting. Death is not like nothingness. Death is something, and it is this thing called hell, where it's torment. We're tormenting ourselves. That's the thing about God's creation. God doesn't create hell. We create hell. He just has us. He just can't have hell be in his presence. So he's not going to be a part of it. So he does power it. He does control it. He does trap you in it. But it's you doing it. All you got to do is recognize God's power, God's presence, and you can be in God's presence and submit to it, and you can be in his presence. And then that's God. 10. God is the beginning and God is the end. God is the Alpha and God is the Omega, the beginning and the end. We don't know where God came from, and we don't know how he began, but we do know he is the end, and he is the controller, and he is the ruler. And that is my hope. That is my dream. That is my passion. That is my essence. That is what I want, because I don't want to live in your dream. Your dream's a nightmare. Your dream's a nightmare. Your dream's a nightmare where you have bankers making me poor. You have bankers telling me because I'm not good at basketball, because I'm not a good actor, because I'm not as good as you, and for you to be good, you have to create a stage for me. But for you to create a stage, you got to control the stage. You got to tell me the earth is a round spinning ball. You got to tell me it's a sphere, but there's absolutely no proof of it. And luckily, we live in a time where we can still argue it, and we have some platforms and a stage on YouTube where we can talk about it. So come on the Daniel YouTube show and tell me your dreams, tell me your hopes, tell me your passions. Beam them to me, and I'll beam them back to you. And hopefully, this Creator God will change our hearts and change our minds, and we can have some fun, and we can like each other and love each other and enjoy this experience in God's created order.